Hello, beloved twin flames and all other beautiful light beings that come across this video today. I'm bringing you this video just on the solstice energy, and I've just done a massive meditation, and I think this is going to be part one of probably maybe a couple of audios, and I'm going to have to record one by one because the energy is just so poppy and powerful and zingy and explosive right now, that I'm just needing to get this message out for the general population, more about the energies at the moment, or at least, if not the general population, those of us that are in the waves of the currents of change and shifts and paradigms and beliefs, however you want to see it, those people that are experiencing more of a spiritual awakening and spiritual growth and learning stage of their journey, then this is kind of going to resonate really. So I'm just describing how I feel at the moment, and I know from people that write to me and comment on my YouTube videos that they do resonate and they're going through the same thing. So I will talk a bit more specifically about how this will affect twin flames, but just in general, this is really just a beautiful time for change. It's all about new beginnings. In New Zealand, we are celebrating Matariki, which is the Maori New Year, and so it's a really special time. Like my little nephew did like a sleepover, and it's at his school, which represents, and for Maori they have marae, which are meeting houses and where people join together and meet and then sleep overnight together and be with the ancestors, overnight. So it's really a special, potent time of just really being conscious and present about change and how you're changing and how you're evolving at this time. In my world, this is coming out as changing my job. So I have been working in the mental health sector as a manager of a crisis service that is for people that are experiencing mental distress, and it's been hugely interesting getting to learn and understand how the mental health system works with people in distress, and really what I see is people getting medicated and sort of tranquilized, you could say, to kind of deal with their pain or their what is being expressed as a mental distress, and how they define all these symptoms of people's pain and trauma in these various ways, but are very, have wonderful decorative descriptions and diagnoses for all the things, and can fill you with pages of assessments on these people. But yet there's very little therapy available, and there's very little spiritual or emotional support for these people. And apart from, let's get you a cup of tea and we'll distract you with television. And, I just feel really unimpressed with our mental health system, although our beautiful Prime Minister, who's just very much leading the way in terms of world leadership, is bringing in some money to put into the mental health system. So, we could see that changing in New Zealand. And what I'm moving on to is working with a new job and a new role with youth. So this is going to be more of a social work coaching kind of role with youth that are not in employment or education, and young parents that have teen pregnancies and maybe need to continue their education, but their options of employment are lower, and they're on limited incomes, and so our government supports these young people, and so that's going to be my job. So big change for me, and I'm sure for a lot of you, because I'm just feeling there's just so much big energy at the moment. And if whatever it is that you're changing in your life, whether it be like for me, also another thing that I'm changing is my diet. So I have been vegetarian for pretty much since I was 15 years old, and I'm now 46, so that's 30 years. And later in my life I was a vegan, and that started sort of in my 20s and 30s, and then I've been back on a little bit of dairy, but just a little bit, and then it became gluten-free, and now I'm having to change again because a lot of the foods that were in my vegetarian diet are very high in carbs and gases and sugars as well. I was eating too much sugar. So, that was putting on the weight. And so now I'm going to be going on a new keto diet, which I'm sure many of you are aware of. And so that's another change that I'm seeing people who are in this bandwidth of spiritual evolution, they're really getting in touch with all of these things, are just needing to change so many things like diets and lifestyles and relationships. And yeah, there's a lot of change, a lot of big energies right now. I can feel it for all of us, and people are experiencing that in different ways, but try not to go into fear about these changes. When we're in our fear, just recognize when we're in tension or stress or resistance or just, fear in general, which is understandable. There's no judgment on that. That is absolutely what's going to be happening, because we're throwing out all of those fears in order for us to grow, in order for us to heal and find better ways of living and doing things, and that are more healthier for us and more beneficial for our well-being and those around us. So, and that is also cleaning up our emotions, which I've talked about as well, and looking into those and seeing what's coming up there. So I was going to do part 2 separately, but I think I'm kind of feeling the flow of some of the information about twin flames coming in. So twin flames, what I got was, so I'm going to talk about where I'm at with my twin flame, and I think how that relates to a number of you who I believe are in this bandwidth that actually do have a relationship with their twin flame. They might not be in full separation, which I know is extremely painful, and we've all been there, and that is definitely, for a large number of twin flames, what they're going through, and we know that is difficult. And then you've got twin flames in union, which are actually physically in relationships together, which, are experiencing all kinds of different things, whether it be positive, negative, whatever, however, but we're still polarizing and balancing out those polarities, whichever relationship we find ourselves in. So, and predominantly that's with ourselves, as we know, part of the journey. So some of us are in contact with our twin flames. We're in a connection and a friendship, or we do keep in contact with them in some way, shape or form. And so what we'll be finding is, I know for me and my twin flame, whenever I get really deep, I always think of him. When I get really deep with my emotions and connecting dots between relationships and experiences and pain, and putting all the pieces together, this whole rejection and shame and judgment and body image. And so that was really coming up strongly, and I feel seeing a lot in the newspapers in New Zealand, actually, cases of sexual harassment, sexual abuse. Like, we've also got somebody, without breaking confidentiality, that I've been hearing about recently in our service, that had been groomed, and she was a very, she had mental health issues as well as intellectual disabilities and understanding cognitive disorders, and she was groomed by an older man and then sexually abused. And I feel this is a theme coming up, and I feel like I want to be getting close in terms of talking to my twin flame about some of these really deep concepts that are related to our society, related to the collective, and then relate back to us and how we're processing those situations and feelings through our body. So sex, and how that is one of the most ultimate experiences of all of the senses that we have. Life is multi-layered. We've got so many various senses, sound and sight and touch and all these things that we can do. And ultimately the union between pretty much the masculine feminine energy, or energy with another, I'm also saying that wrong, because we've got to get out of that polarized thing about the genders, male, female, and we need to see people, connection between two humans, and the electromagnetics that happens when that occurs between the sexual energy field, and how that kind of vibrates into the whole vibration of our bodies, and the connections there that happen between two people. And it's pretty amazing and beautiful, and yet we're still definitely learning about that, and how many of us, and I'll say myself included, have come out of very unhealthy relationships and very shaming, kind of not healthy sexual relationships. And still finding the way when it comes to getting out of the fear around that, the fear of being hurt and abused, the fear of not being loved, the fear of being judged about my body or the functions of my body, and how to think that you need to do it perfect and that you have to be perfect, and that, it's quite an area where it's been the ultimate on either sides. Again, we've got a polarity between the most enjoyable and fantastically high-ended experience of pleasure in the world and the human experience, and then on the other side of the polarity we've got extreme shame, and it's hidden and so shamed and judged and moralized over, and the whole church religion, it's hidden, and then so we need to figure that out too. And so I feel that energy is coming for a learning experience for many of us, and many of us may have also already gone through that and been through some learning around that. People are at different stages, so for me, I'm doing that learning at the moment as well alongside everything else. And then I'm just kind of hearing to slow things down as well when things get really poppy and we get a push of energy and we feel something new coming, and we just push into it, and it's like another rebirth of ourselves, really. And we can also overload our central nervous systems and our mind and get too busy at this time and become a bit manic. And so it's important to sort of ground it in as well, and just flow with it. And I've been also getting another message from my spirit team that I'm about to set up another kind of side business, which is aiming more for what I would normally call mainstream people, but catching a wider audience around some of the emotional part of the spiritual awakening process, and how you can sort of link people in that bridge. Or what I'm seeing is that people are going along a big river of life, of movement, and some people get backed up on the bank or blocked with certain logs and rocks and bump along the way. And then there's various streams that you can get into with life, and it's this analogy where we can just flow unimpeded if we really catch this, what I'm getting told is called the spirit stream. So so watch out for that. That's going to become my new business, and going to be a little bit wider and brighter and more available and hopefully attractive to all kinds of people. Anyway, I'm going to leave this part of the video, and there will be a second part to this, because I want to update you on my twin flame story that I've been reading with every video that I put out lately. And it's the story that I wrote, that I started to write. It was my journal when I first met my twin flame, and some of the things that I was going through along the way, and some of the experiences I had. So I'm kind of just reading through, it's a 50-60 page story. So I'll get back to you on that one. I'm just going to pause here for a minute. Bye for now. Okay, welcome to part 2 of my video this week, and I'm going to continue reading my twin flame story. For those of you that follow me regularly, you'll know where we're up to in the story. For those of you, this is the first time you're listening to me and coming across this twin flame story, it really doesn't matter whether you know what's happened in the past, or you can pick up, I think, pretty much at any time, because a lot of what I'm talking about is the signs and the synchronicities that kind of have kept me on this journey really for so long, and still on this journey, because I just get so many amazing, signs from spirit, and just these, So this one is going to be about kind of becoming a lot more, spirit being involved in our connection. So, and sort of taking it to a spiritual level between us. Okay, so one day he hurt his leg pretty bad. I offered to give him some Reiki. He agreed for the first time. He let me. He lay down and surrendered. He had his music going while I was doing the healing, and would you believe, one of my top favourite songs of all time started playing. Om Namah Shivaya by Apache Indian. And again, for those of you that have followed me, know that I have a connection with India, and Om Namah Shivaya was one of the first mantras that I was given on my spiritual journey that took me to India. So anyway, this song was playing. It's one of my top favourites, and it just happened to be on his iPad, I guess, iTunes. So this song is so significant for me beyond belief. One of the lines in the song goes, you know you're running away and you're running away, but from yourself you know you can't hide. And that was a time when he was kind of starting to, the runner thing was happening, the runner chaser, and he was having a lot of problems in his life and sort of had to leave his job, and things were difficult, so he ended up going anyway. So then we had some time apart, and one night I was just chilling. I was getting ready for bed and closed my eyes for a quick meditation before falling asleep. Quite honestly, I really love being by myself. I really value my alone time, my space, and my freedom. And I think about him often, but not a lot. Like, I've got a lot of other things on my mind, and I'm pretty busy in my day-to-day life. But suddenly, he was there. I'm clairaudient, so most of my spiritual information comes through hearing voices, in inverted commas. Yep, I used to think I was crazy before I realised what was happening. So I heard him say, quite matter-of-factly, "Hi, you know we can communicate telepathically, don't you?" Well, I communicate telepathically with lots of people and lots of spirits and lots of angels and guides and masters, but with him? Why did I not think that was possible? I guess on the third dimension he did not appear to be quite as spiritual as me. He had a loving heart and a beautiful soul, but in terms of spiritual, he's more of a natural, inner knowing kind of guy, rather than all this kooky stuff that I'm into. But on the fifth dimension, we are all in our unified spirit selves, and this is the point from where we were communicating with each other. Nice, revelation. So, what do you want to talk about? I asked. I want to say that I love you, and I know it's hard to believe this is happening, but I want to meet you in the dream world tonight so that I can prove to you that this is real, he said. Okay, now I'm getting suspicious. Are you sure this is you? Why haven't we been able to talk like this before? I said, ever the doubtful one. I have been trying to communicate with you like this. That is all the signs you are seeing, but sometimes you are so stuck in the third dimension, he said, lol. Me, stuck in the third dimension? Whoops, actually I realised that all my fearing and doubting was totally me being stuck. I had even tried to communicate with him telepathically before, but I was coming from my ego to have a sneak peek. Let's spy on him and see what is going on, to get confirmation kind of place, rather than from a place of unconditional love. That night I wrestled with my ego again. What if he doesn't come and meet me in my dreams? Or I don't have a dream, then is that a fail? Or the other side, what if he does come in my dreams and it is real? Freak out? Still, not sure if I'm ready for all of this intense twin flame love stuff. Or, an afterthought, what if I make up and engineer the dream entirely from my subconscious? Ego tricking me again. Eventually, I just decided to let it all go and just to go to bloody sleep. Who cares? Sometimes I can be very human. It's my Virgo practical side. Later, in the middle of the night, I dreamt. I was at a friend of mine's house, the one that had told me to let go of my story and that I was delusional. Perhaps that's significant too. And there he was, sitting on a stool, beckoning me to come towards him. It was as if all barriers had been removed. And also, we had prearranged this. We had made a date. Not just a normal date like let's go to the movies. This was let's meet in the dream world date. These are the kind of dates that twin flames have. I was getting closer and closer to him. I did not feel any tension, fear or anxiety. I could hardly wait to be in his arms. Finally we were close, and it didn't take long before we had moved out of the physical realm of touch. That hardly seemed important, into a deeper point of connection. Our hearts and our souls, our chakras, and the golden infinity symbol was what I felt. I was within him rather than with him, entirely, deep. Not one for believing I deserved too much of the good stuff. My subconscious fears found a way to pull me out of that loving embrace into wondering about his girlfriend. Hey, so isn't this cheating? What about your girlfriend? I asked, pulling away. Well, right now we are in the fifth dimension, and here we do not have ownership. We are all free and unconditionally loving. We respect each other's connection, as there is no sense of separation or fear or loss. On the fifth dimension, we are completely free and happy to be enjoying each other's energy. However, on the third dimension, this is where we have separation, so we can learn through relationships with others, where we have a definition and roles and regulations around relationships. So yes, on the third dimension, this would be considered cheating, he replied. So wise. And that was pretty much my very short but very amazing dream connection. What I discovered later was that this appearance from him was very much in alignment with the April activations that had taken around place around the time of April 7th, 2016. I'm glad I wrote a date in there, because sometimes when I was writing all of this, I kind of lost track of the dates. So I'm just going to read one more little kind of excerpt, and then I'm just going to leave it there for today. So around that time, I've probably also put up videos. That was when I started my series around 5D communication. So if you're hearing this video today and this is resonating with you, that's probably where you might want to work on with your twin flame. So butterflies again. One night, not so long after he moved out and got a job in a town an hour away, he and his girlfriend came back for a visit. And we shared a lovely evening together, hanging out, chatting, playing music, sharing food. During the evening, my daughter began drawing a picture, a scene of the sea and grass and mountains. She asked us what we would like to add to the picture. I said a feather. His girlfriend said a snail. And what did he say? A butterfly. Does that count as a sign? During different stages of this journey, I have had times when I have really doubted whether I'm going crazy, making this up. I have questioned my own guidance and intuition. One day I was guided to send an email to him and lay it all out on the table, to really let him know clearly and directly how I feel, and to bring the information into his awareness. I was guided to use certain words and phrases such as, "Wake up, it's time, we have a mission to complete." A couple of weeks after the dream, I had not heard from him for about I've missed a bit. I wondered where that was going. So as I was thinking all of that, I was on my way to work, and I just happened to look to the side, and I saw a shop window, and it had this beautiful picture of a butterfly right in the shop window. And I drove that way every day to work, and this particular day the traffic had stuck me outside the shop. So I thought that was quite synchronistic as well, like it was a sign, the butterfly in the window. And then several times after that, I checked again about that shop, and it was a kind of shop that changes its window design. It's a furniture and design shop, and that butterfly was never ever there again. It was just at that moment, at that time. So numbers again. A couple of weeks after the dream, I had not heard from him for about 10 days. I started to worry a little about his well-being, as I could sense a distance. I had sent a couple of texts and an email with no reply. I'm constantly learning to let go and refocus back on loving myself, my daughter, and my very full and busy life. So it was Monday, my busy work day. I was trolling through my piles of emails and to-do lists at work when a text came through from him. Yay! But guess what? Would you believe what time it came through? Of all the possibilities of times that it could come through? Yep, it was 11:22 a.m. when that text arrived. A couple of days ago, I remembered a small gift he had given me in the early days of our meeting. It was a handcrafted peace sign made out of New Zealand PowerShell. It came with one of his famous notes. I had kept them both neatly and safely stored away in a small round tin. I was urged to go get the tin and the peace sign, then look closer at the paper on which the note was written. It was a small piece of paper cut out from the back of a supermarket docket. The print was slightly faded. My eyes had to adjust to read the date of the docket. There I could just barely make out the date, 22nd. It was the 22nd of October, just after we met, and again. So, I think I'm going to leave it there. There's more to the story, and I can see this goes back to March 2016, so that's when I'm going to that's the era in which this was happening. So I'll fill you in more next time I manage to come get a video out to you. I hope this video finds you all doing really well out there, even during this time of great change and incredible shifts. Go with it, trust, surrender, go with the flow, and also where you need to take action, you're being guided or shown the way, what you need to do for the next stage. Go ahead and take that action and do it now, because now is a good time to shift yourself into a brand new beautiful energy for this beautiful upgrade of the solstice energies, the full moon energies, the eclipse energies, and all of the matariki, New Year's, and everything that's going on. So go well out there, everyone, and sending you out a big, big hug and lots of love from my heart. Bye for now.